Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tools of Fighter Pilot. I was thinking about how I would like to start this new project, and I would like to start like Simon Sinek would do it. It starts with why. Why do we do it? I believe that after 30 years of career in aviation, we have some tools to share, and some tools are also transferable. So, but I would like also to ask to the co-host of the show is why. I'd like to introduce Jason Richardson, fighter pilot, airline pilot, human performance solutions owner, and father of two. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Tommaso. Great to be here. I'm driven like you to give back. But for me, when I left the Air Force and joined an airline, many people used to say, don't you miss flying F-18s? Don't you miss flying fighters? And of course, the answer automatically is always yes. But over the years, I kind of thought about that question more and more. And what I actually found is what I really miss is having impact. Because in the military, at any level you're at, you can have impact. As the most junior person in a unit, you can positively impact that unit. It's just the way the military is set up. And as you go up, you can have obviously more impact. And that's what I mean. I can impact the team when I board an airliner, but as far as the broader organization, it's kind of limited. And I only work with these people for a short period. So one of my why is that I know that I'm most energized and most motivated when I can help and encourage and motivate and have impact on others and the organization. That's what I loved the most about instructing in the Air Force was kind of that passing on the knowledge. And I think like you, I have a background which is definitely transferable and it's of use to people in organizations outside of the military.
I guess at some point of your aviation career, if you become an instructor, it becomes pretty natural then to transfer that one also in any kind of career that you're gonna have after you leave the military. So that's we have a common background on this one. Yeah. Let's try to introduce ourselves with the 100 words only, okay? And then the listeners will get to know us a little bit better the more that we go on with the show and with the episode. So for myself, fighter pilot instructor, Ironman triathlon endurance coach, father. I come from a small village from near Florence, where I grew up on bicycles and playing tennis and basketball. And I have to be grateful for 20 years in the Air Force that basically brought me here. After I left the Air Force, I continued being an instructor, got my license for triathlon and endurance coaching. And this is still an activity that I do. I try to be also an athlete, but then with the age, it is becoming more and more difficult. What about you, Jason?
Also from a very small village, not near Florence, a much more, in my, I would say, a much less beautiful part of the world, but still had its own nice parts between Adelaide and Melbourne in Australia. And to join the Air Force at 17, 15 years in the Royal Australian Air Force as a fighter pilot and as an instructor, and then moved to Hong Kong to join an airline. Got my command on A350 and A330s in 2017. And because of that desire to have impact again, I think, after about a year, decided to set up a business. And I didn't really know exactly what it was going to look like, but it would have something to do with training, maybe mentoring. I thought initially as for airline cadets. That morphed over time. And finally, I niched down a few years ago into only focusing on Formula One. I found that what really energized me and what I really wanted to get back to was that high performance, ultra high performance culture that I had in the Air Force. And I found that this was very difficult to find outside elite military units and outside of professional sport. So I niched down into Formula One, and I've been fortunate to be working with a Formula One client for the last year.
As you said, I mean, there are a lot of high performance team, but Formula One is a niche, and obviously Formula One has a lot in common with the fighter pilots. You know, already the speeds and the acceleration, like we were discussing just a few minutes ago. I have to say that every time I start a podcast, I tend to drift and it becomes like a a little bit wobbly, a lot of episodes, or I started to get confused. So because your business is already established, I want to promise you that at least we're gonna do 5 episodes. Okay, so I will put my effort to do this. Do you want to introduce briefly HPS, Human Performance Solutions?
The company, as I said, I niched down into focusing on working with Formula One teams because exactly what you said, there's so many similarities. Yeah, you put a Venn diagram of the operating environment of high performance aviation and the operating environment of elite motorsport. It's almost a concentric circle. We've got aerodynamics, we have simulation, we have decision making under pressure, we have radio communications, we have response to error, checklist use, human machine interface. It just goes on and on and on. There's so many similarities. So I think now that there's a cost cap inside Formula One, they have to look outside motorsport. Generally, people inside motorsport are from motorsport. And now that there's a cost cap, everything's so tight that they understand that they need to look outside to other industries to try and get that edge over the competition. The business itself is focused on supporting leaders in optimizing the operating environment. So I call it synergy coaching. So synergy, everything that affects team synergy, which is basically how people interact with each other, and to a lesser extent, how people interact with the environment, but it's optimizing that. So it's making sure that the culture is there, the values are there, that the authority gradients are relatively flat, that inside meetings, people share their speaking equally. All of these things that are attributes of high performance teams, the way we debrief, the fact that we do debrief everything, the way we set behavioral objectives instead of setting KPIs or output-based objectives. So all of these things is what I consider my specialty and what I bring to clients, and in this case, Formula One.
The leaders that they are in the team, obviously, they have to deal with the stars of the team. Like the pilot is in the end game of all the teamwork. I want to tell you a story because the character involved is from Australia. So I was flying F-16 at the time, and I had it was a mission of 2 airplanes overhead the airfield on the east coast of Italy, and I had like 2 tanks, so I had a lot of fuel. And so we're doing the intercept, and my number 2 is bingo, so he's ready to go home. And at the time, my squadron commander calls me on the radio and he said, "Look, how much fuel you have?" "Oh, I have plenty." "Okay, you need to go to Misano because they are waiting for you to do a low approach over the over the MotoGP." It was Superbike weekend at the time. Okay. So, I go there, and, in Italy, it's always a little bit tricky to fly under 1,000 feet. I call ATC. They say, "No, clear, you can go." So I go there over the circuit, and I do a couple of turns. Everything at safe altitude. Okay, nothing crazy. Then I come back home, and I knew that my boss, I said, "Boss, you need to get me tickets now to go to Superbike," because it was like, half an hour drive. So I get there, I'm in flying suit, get the car, a small car, not Opel. I go there. As soon as I get there with the pass, I am in flying suit. And Troy Bayliss comes there, and he's like, "It was you." I said, "Dude, how do you know? You were on the motorcycle." I said, "It looked like he did the best time on the circuit, and he was looking at me, overflying the motorcycle." But these are the characters that high performance teams need to deal with, and sometimes it's not easy because these people are always on the accelerator, so they want people around them to be pushing the accelerator as well.
I mean, everyone looks at Formula One and they think there's a couple of cars and there's the drivers, but of course these teams, the team that I'm working for is, it's got well over 500 people in the organization, and some of the other teams are up towards 1,500, 2,000 people now. There's 2 drivers, so there's so much that goes on behind the scenes, and in a way, that's a great opportunity. I mean, there's a great book by a American football coach, Bill Walsh, and when he joined the San Francisco 49ers, he basically wrote a standard of performance. He wrote what excellent looks like, but it wasn't just what excellent looks like for the players. he wrote down what excellence must look like for every person in the organization, the people that were answering the phones, the people who were doing the cleaning. It's, when you're looking for that edge at this level of sport, it's trying to get everybody in the organization to feel like they're in the Olympic Games. They're competing for a gold medal in whatever they do. And of course, that's a huge task, because there's not many of us that are so driven. But if you get that team spirit and that culture going, of course, this can have a massive impact. And so it's super exciting. There's a lot more people inside a Formula One team than just the pilots, but that's a great opportunity, because if you get everybody on board, everyone pushing, of course, that's massively powerful for team performance.
Yeah, love it. Let's dive in a little bit more. How many times have you heard about the fighter pilot mindset, and what is it in your opinion? Because it's something that we are using here, right?
Yeah, well, I've got a story about when I was introduced to this, and it was quite confronting to me. I think the way I started wanting to become a fighter pilot, I'd always flown with my father in small airplanes. I spent every weekend of my childhood flying with my dad and trying to go flying with other people at the local aero club. My friend saw the movie Top Gun. He said he's going to be a fighter pilot. I said, that sounds perfect. It's great. And I fixated on that. I then became a fighter pilot, and I knew it was the craziest aeroplane in Australia I could fly, the fastest, the highest G, the most exciting flying you can do. I remember the first day I arrived in to do our initial training on the Italian MB326 hotel.
MB326.
The Macchi, fantastic aeroplane. And we all arrived. There was, I think, 8 of us on this course that was going to last around 4 months. And our instructor walked in, the chief instructor that was looking after us, and he stood up and told us, this is the daily routine, this is where the toilets are, this is where the gym is, all the standard housekeeping stuff. And then he looked at us and he said, if you want to be a fighter pilot, from this day forth, you have to aim to be the absolute best at every single thing you do. And that to me was quite confronting. This mindset I hadn't really come across before. I just thought, I was going on this course to fly an aeroplane, and that's what it was. But as I discovered, it's not like that. And I had never been like that. I didn't really like school. I did what I needed to do to kind of tick the box and get myself into the Air Force and then onto pilot's course, etc. But this idea of trying to strive for absolute excellence in everything that I did was new to me. And it actually took quite a few years for me to absorb that. But certainly by the time I was in a fighter squadron, that's how it was. Like, if you do something, you do it the absolute best you can. You strive for excellence in everything you do. So I think, to me, that's the kind of the essence of the fighter pilot mindset. But there's another, if you let me, there's another brief story about this same unit. We were always assessed on a number of metrics when we're on pilot's course: airmanship, fuel awareness, all these kind of things, safety, altitude awareness. When we got to start this lead-in fighter training on this Macchi jet, they introduced this other metric that every single mission we were assessed on, and it was called Tiger. And
Okay,
we'd never heard of this
cool.
before. It was called Tiger, and the instructors formally would assess us on our Tiger, and we kind of got to know that this was the essence of Tiger is controlled aggression. But actually, the word Tiger, they define there is more than 20 different attributes which the word Tiger means, and I've got it here with me. I'll read you out a couple of them. So, what it means to have Tiger. Tiger is being calm and focused in the face of adversity and pressure. It's displaying controlled aggression. It's being highly self-aware. So the instructors would want us to be aware of our own limitations, our strengths as well, but being very self-aware. It's knowing when to kill and when to wait. So it's knowing when to pull your nose on and when just to hold off and wait for the better opportunity. Strong self-belief. It's accepting that it's mission first and self second. So you must sacrifice yourself for the team and for the mission. And it goes on. But lastly, probably the most important, and I think the one that has been a theme of my life is never, ever give up. So that's what they defined as Tiger, and we would get formally assessed on it. And I think this, I remember doing a blog on this. This is a hugely powerful way that they basically instilled fighter pilot culture into us. It was kind of like part of the onboarding process into the fighter pilot club, I guess you could say. So that's a long way of saying that's what fighter pilot mindset is for me.
Yeah, from my side, I come from flying schools that were a little bit old-fashioned. So it was like, survive, show that you can survive, much more than a tiger. And then, but then there was a change through the years. At the beginning was just survival. And it always, what you were saying, it reminded me of what Jordan Peterson is talking about. You need to be dangerous. The character can be debatable or not, but it says you need to be dangerous because if you're dangerous then and you can control, then at this point you're really effective, and then you can achieve the best that you can achieve, and you need to improve and you need to try to get the best all the time. So now obviously we are coming from small villages, so it doesn't happen one day to the other. You don't become fighter pilot, you don't become you don't achieve that kind of mindset one day from the other. It's all building blocks. When you see, I was looking at one of the pictures on my assignment night, and I knew that I would get the F104. I would go there and get the sticker and put it on the board, But it did, in that moment that I take the sticker, I'm looking back and I see where I started. And the lesson there is like, you need to try to be your best, but it doesn't happen quickly. Okay. You need to build, you need to continuously build. And that's why I would like introduce also couple of concepts that we discussed already about, which are my non-negotiables, which I learned, and this is something that is applicable to everything. My first one is be on time. Okay, for me, time is crucial. The second one is anything you do, be prepared, because otherwise that building block doesn't work. You can be as talented as you want, but if you're not prepared, you're not gonna get there. Structure and checklist, we're gonna get there many times. I know you like the topic. Communication assertiveness, you already spoke about that, but these are really powerful tools to achieve your results. And then control the uncontrollable, adapting to change, very stoic approach to things after a few years that you've seen many stories and many happenings, let's say. What are yours?
Yeah, I was interested when I saw you were going to ask this question, because I hadn't thought about this, and then I thought, well, what are my non-negotiables? What do I find important? Now, is it what I find important for me or for clients? Because actually, it was quite good, this question, because it got me thinking about this. And you and I, and anyone that spends this amount of time in the Air Force, I always say I'm completely institutionalized by the Air Force. I am military, and I can't take that out of me. That is me. So all of those things that you spoke about, I was thinking about this whole punctuality thing, and I think for me, I would broaden it and say, and include discipline, which is broader, but it encompasses that discipline to be prepared. It's that discipline to be on time. I mean, we had the saying, 5 minutes early is on time is late. The other one that I would say is a non-negotiable is self-awareness, that constant ability to reflect and make sure that I'm not bullshitting myself, basically, that I'm keeping myself honest. And of course, we need other people. I have my own coach that I need to just to make sure I'm not missing things, that I'm accurately self-aware, and I can manage myself. So I would agree with yours, but I would broaden it and say, for me, discipline and self-awareness as well.
I'll buy self-awareness. I'll put in a 6th because it's something that I've been using a lot. We use it a lot in sports, in endurance. You have athletes that they come to triathlon and maybe they can cycle and run, but they cannot swim. And the water is the mean where you understand if the athletes are aware or not, because you don't see your body. So it's a body dimension, but in reality it comes here because now you need to visualize what you're doing And so self-awareness is gonna make them in the end improve and achieve the results. We see athletes that cannot swim, and now they're swimming 3-4 kilometers in the sea, because at a certain point they could look themselves from outside. So it's kind of having an eye that is producing images in your brain. So, this is how I look like. This is how you can make corrections as well. If you think about the book Inner Game of Tennis, is talking about athletes and is coaching athletes, this tennis player, and he's telling them, look at yourself in the mirror. Is this what you were thinking that you were doing? And people were like, no. Okay, let's play in front of the mirror so that you can be more body aware and be more self-aware. Very interesting.
Yeah, it's like it's hugely important, and this is why people that move from industry, their C-suite, or they're performing at a high level somewhere, they eventually reach a point where they stagnate. And there's a great YouTube video where, as a surgeon who's basically feels like his performance is stagnated, and someone talks him into getting a coach, and he's like, I don't need a coach. He gets a coach, and he comes out of the surgery after this surgeon who's going to coach him watches what he does and thinks, yeah, that went pretty well. Maybe he's got nothing for me. And the guy had 2 pages, because we sometimes we can't see things that are going on, and we need that external observer. We had that great saying in our Air Force, go to the hall of mirrors. So if we made some big mistake, like fratricide or something really horrible, it would be like, yeah, I need to go to the hall of mirrors for a couple of days. The hall of mirrors, this place where everywhere you look, you see an accurate reflection of you. And I'm sure you've watched the High Performance podcast that's on YouTube. It's fantastic, and some of the guests they have are so good. But they always ask this question: what does high performance mean to you? To me, self-awareness is such a big part of it, and it's the same for individuals, and it's exactly the same for organizations. Organizations that want to perform at the peak, they have to be highly self-aware. And that means they have to spend time in debriefs. They have to spend time digging up weakness. It's like a bodybuilder looks in the mirror and he doesn't work on the thing that he's already strong at. He looks for weakness so that he can build that up and grow. And self-awareness is huge. It's so important. And it's for me, it's the foundation of high performance, because you have to be willing to examine everything you're doing very closely and very, very honestly. And it is tough. It's tough because we have a natural tendency to protect our ego and not want to hear critique, but it's the only way we get better.
Building blocks, step by step, you're going to get self-aware. Now, obviously, you spoke about one of the tools that we've been using a lot, at least in my second part of my career. Okay, at the beginning was a little bit more, you did this and that, but as soon as we went to a more modernized platform, it was necessary to do a debriefing. So working on the feedback, and nowadays we can get inspiration from the Air Forces, because we use so many technological tools to review, and we go deep into the details of the mission and how the radar work, on how the maneuver was, and so this one here also in the civilian world, and also in any type of endeavor. I like to talk about sport because lately I've been pretty close to my team. Going out for a team session, on a cycling team session for a triathlete, it's very important that you brief the objectives. You execute the workout, you are coached during the workout, but then people are going to have a coffee waiting for the coach to give them feedback. It's so crucial. This is how you fix your mistakes. This is how you fix the next workout. This is how you build up. It's kind of an adaptation where you get stress, and then you learn how to cope with the stress, and then now you can improve, and etc. So feedback and debriefing is what we have been using for our entire career. We still use it.
Yeah, it's just it's every mission we debriefed, every single thing. There was always something, and it's so crucial. And you think, like, for the average business, the average startup, the average real estate boutique, whatever, if they just debriefed either after every significant event or at a periodic time, like once a week or once a month, and reflect honestly on what they do, the impact that has on the performance of the organization is just massive. Of course, what happens most of the time is very tight. So, they make the sale, they get the sale, everyone has a champagne lunch, and then they move on straight away to the next project. They don't take that time, that half a day to reflect on what actually happened over the last month. How were comms? Did we, allocate resources correctly? How were objectives? Did we achieve them? What can we do better next time? And it's this whole plan, brief, execute, debrief, and then respond. This loop is so important, and it's in our world, you can't operate without it. You just can't.
I think what happens nowadays, most of the companies are, let's say, I wouldn't be offending anybody, but they are short-sighted to a point that they're looking for objectives and goals that are short-term. So if you have read the Simon Sinek, The Infinite Game, that loop it needs to go on, and life and business, they don't stop after 3 months or after 6 months. Yeah, you achieve the KPI. Is that an achievement? Is that success? Is that, what is it? So with the debriefing, this is how you create legacy in your business. This is with the debriefing, you create a legacy in sport. You have the athlete that can go on and continue be strong and improve, and also inspire the kids, for example, inspire the family, so that he creates a legacy of himself, showing that work pays, and it pays only if you review and get the brief on what you did.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that concept of the infinite game. This brings up so much philosophy, actually, because we get to the point now, do we concentrate on the process or the outcome? And I'm a firm believer that you concentrate on the process. I mean, you've got to have a clear vision of where you want to go, but you then come back and work out what processes do we need to put in place to achieve that over time. And yeah, it's super important to reflect, and it's important for people just as individuals as well to reflect if they don't have a coach, but to write things down, and to try and get people that will give you unbiased feedback. And of course, all of our families are biased in some way, and our friends are typically biased. And again, one of the advantages of coaching is a good coach will be unbiased. They're not trying to be your friend. They are trying to get the absolute best you from you. They're trying to give you feedback that's sometimes hard, but it's required. If you are self-aware and you have that true high performance spirit, you want to move ahead, then we take that feedback and we try and respond by making changes.
We give some news to the listeners. Sometimes a coach is going to use a language that maybe they won't like it. If you think about Bill Campbell, when he was coaching people at Apple, at Google, he was like smashing them, and people appreciate it because if you show up, you're honest, and you are genuine, authentic, let's say, then at this point, people are going to listen to you. You were talking about writing. I see behind your shoulder a nice book that you have created. Let's talk a little bit about it.
Yeah. So the Team Synergy Quick Reference Handbook. I was in quarantine August 2022, and it was part of this manifesting. I decided that I wanted to work for a Formula One team as a performance coach. And so now, what does that person look like? Who is this kind of person that works for a Formula One team as a performance coach? And I kind of reflected and said, well, they probably have a book. So I essentially wrote this book for leaders of Formula One teams, and you'll appreciate the fact that it's designed like a QRH. So you and I have had something similar to this with the drills that we need to do for all sorts of emergencies tucked in our G suit pocket or tucked in our navigation bag in fighters. And it's designed for very quick reference so that we can pull it out and quickly find a procedure that's going to save our lives. So this was also designed to be very quick and very, very useful. I remember when I did my instructor's course in the Air Force, we were always getting debriefed, use more how. So don't tell people what to do. Don't tell the student what to do. Tell them how to do it. And this is one of the issues with leadership training. There's a lot of books out there on leadership, but a lot of them aren't actually on leadership. Even if they are, they kind of tell you what to do. But what I've really focused on in the book is to tell people how. Just give them very simple procedures that this is how you build trust. This is how you conduct a briefing. This is how you create psychological safety in a meeting. So, So thanks for the little plug, the opportunity to plug the Team Synergy QRH.
No.
There it is. It's
it'll
be coming out to the public soon. The initial edition has been distributed to the Formula One team, the leaders inside the Formula One team that I work with, and it'll be available through my website in the next few months. But
I'll get one for sure. Structure and checklist is my third non-negotiable. So I like to write SOPs, checklists, and stuff like this. Yes.
Yeah.
This is also another project that we have with the team. I said to the guys that are going to the team sessions, you need to organize and have a checklist. Otherwise, we're gonna miss bits and pieces. People are gonna show up without lights or without properly inflated tires and stuff like this. Follow the checklist, and you're not gonna miss any hidden spot. So
exactly. So I spoke to one of my very junior pilot colleagues a couple of days ago that had just joined the company. So he's just joined. He's in his early 20s. He's got like 40 years of aviation in front of him. Simulator checks every 3 months, line checks every year, and he's had this simulator coming up. And I said, one of the best bits of advice that I would give you is to, when you prepare for this next simulator check, write down how you prepare for the simulator check and develop it. So, the day before, I download the required information. I spend the first hour absorbing knowledge, then the second hour visualizing, whatever it is, it doesn't matter, but write it down, because what that does is you go through the simulator check and then the debrief, and you think about, how did that go? What was missing in my preparation? And you feed that back into your procedure for preparing for a simulator check. And then for the next 40 years, you're constantly refining this. And it's great because you don't have to ever worry about preparing for the simulator, because all I do is I go through my checklist. I go through my procedure, and I know that I get through the simulator check without a problem, because I've refined it over time, and it's my method and it works for me.
Yeah. It's, I don't know if your Air Force probably was a little bit more structured than mine. When I joined the Air Force, I didn't know really from where to start. So when I did my exams, it was the physical exams first, and then the Italian written test, and then mathematical test. I was there, one of the 100 of guys from the villages, just showing up in Naples, taking the train probably for the second time in their lives, getting lost around Italy. And getting there was like everything was new. I was very motivated, so I didn't feel. I was feeling pressure, but not too much. It's just the way I am, and on these things. If I know, I know. If I don't know, so be it. Very, very stoic about it. But then, through the years, through the challenges that I, like, let's say mainly academic challenges that I've done in the Air Force, there was never proper coaching to say, okay, you need to manage this in this way. Like small techniques, relax your neck, for example. It's something that, when you're looking at somebody that is stressed, right away say, okay, relax your neck. Don't say just relax. No, relax your neck. Something physical that you can have control. Relax doesn't mean
it's the how.
Anything.
How do you relax? How?
Yes. How you do it? Okay, so move your hands, stuff like this. So I put down a small course, let's say, to mentor people that wanted to join the Air Force. And finally, one kid that now is flying, is a man that is flying F-35. He came to me, is like, I want to be a pilot. I said, which pilot do you want to be? I don't know, airline pilot, fighter pilot, transport pilot, helicopter pilot. Oh, maybe airline pilot. Okay, good. I can help you with that. Like I know the process, so no big deal. That was already 15 years ago. And then, I gave him a little bit of an overview on how would be the life in the Air Force. And then I said to him, okay, let's have a call next week. Because we're like, no, I want to be a fighter pilot. Okay, with that one I can help you. And so I told him what is going to be expected to do during these exams, but also how to behave. So, something that I use also with my daughter. So you have an exam, okay, go to the room and see how it looks like, so that there is no surprise. And then if you start sweating, and then if you start, you see your eyes that are looking left and right, okay, you need to settle down a little bit. So I brought down a little bit of codes for that one. So I was really happy when he joined the Air Force, because it was really like this. Yeah, I wish somebody told me before, but
yeah, there's so much of it. Like a lot of this stuff you don't get taught how to, like exam technique. I remember getting a couple of little snippets through school, like little bits here and there. But I mean, exam technique is so important, and no one ever taught me. And I've sat so many exams, and some of them didn't do very well, some of them did okay. But yeah, that's exactly right. It's the how. How do you relax yourself? How do you prepare for an exam? When we were talking about going to the room and looking at the room to prepare what you're going to see, so there's less shock. I remember an interview Mark Webber did. Mark Webber, when he was trying to get into Formula One, obviously was trying to do everything as well as he possibly could, and he had some special forces friends from Australia, a couple of mates. And this is why the military is so good, because they teach you this structure, and they make you prepare very well. And he said these guys were great. Like, they were just great with how to prepare for things. Like, for example, going running in the morning, the night before, get your shoes out, get your socks out, minimize the friction the next morning. So it's like, half the problem is if you kind of get out of bed and there's your shoes and your t-shirt and your shorts already, you're more inclined to put them on than if you have to go and find those things. So all these little things about thinking about what's going to happen and what I can do now to make that process easier. I think I'm so grateful for those kind of things that the military gave me.
Yeah. Now, obviously, it is not all gold and roses, the military life, but maybe we're going to talk, or the military organizations, maybe we're going to talk in another episode. Let's say we are at the end of this first episode of Tools of Fighter Pilots. What are the key takeaways?
My key takeaways is the fighter pilot mindset is about being highly self-aware. It's about discipline. It's about being ambitious and thinking positive, and then never ever giving up. That would be the takeaways for me for the fighter pilot mindset.
I think also from my side, having realistic goals. So do a reality check. Sometimes think where you are at the point and where you want to be, because that's, as you said, self-awareness, projection. But in the moment that you start, most probably you're going to have so many difficulties. And that's why, you choose a coach, because you want to be coached, first of all. If you don't want to be coached, then maybe you're not even coachable. But if you want to be coached, that's why you choose a coach who is not going to solve your problems, but it's going to give you some heads up. And if you use a coach that is a fighter pilot, then you're going to have high performance tips and tricks on how to achieve your goals.
There's going to be struggle. It's going to be hard. This is the thing a lot of people don't realize, or that it shocks them. When you try and do something that's ambitious, you try and win a triathlon, an Ironman, for example, you try and become a fighter pilot, you try and do something that's special, that is ambitious. The game you're in is struggle. It's never a straight path. It's just failure and getting back up, failure and getting back up. My daughter was trying to get into dental school. She was sitting the medical entrance exam, super hard exam that she studied for months and months. She passed it 2 times, but didn't get the score high enough to get into dental school. And I remember one day she called me and she said, "Dad, like, when's the point at which you kind of just decide that maybe this is not for me?" I'm like, never give up. And she starts dental school next month in Australia because she didn't give up. It took her another year of trying and training yourself and just keeping plugging away. But it's so critical. If you're on a path to do something big, the game you are in is struggle. So it's a big reality check. It certainly was for me.
Beautiful story, Jason. Thank you very much for sharing. We are at the end of the episode, so thanks for listening. We will see you next time at Tools of Fighter Pilots. Bye.
Thanks very much, Tommaso. Enjoyed the chat. Ciao.
Bye, Jason.